Very important disclaimers before we start. This video is being uploaded very soon after Xenoblade X Definitive Edition releases and will contain spoilers through Chapter 5 of the story. If DE is your first time playing Xenoblade X, I would highly recommend getting that far in the story prior to watching the rest of this video. If you do already know the spoilers I'm talking about, keep in mind, many people will be watching this after having only finished Chapter 5, but not the entire game. And there's a good chance even I haven't finished the new epilogue by the time this is published, so please don't spoil anything past Chapter 5 in your comments unless it has a clear spoiler warning and all the spoilers are hidden below a show more button on the comment. Also, obviously, if the base game story is changed in any way in Definitive Edition, this will be wrong, but I'm assuming they're not changing the things I'm talking about here, so probably good to go on that front at least. Alright then, so genuinely what the actual spark am I talking about here? Xenoblade Chronicles X has an affinity chart, and you can see every single important human character's age on it. Where am I getting any ambiguity from? Well, as far as I can tell, for any non-humans, the affinity chart age is just their age, no ifs, ands, or buts, and there's not really anything else interesting to say about that. Tatsu's thing says he's 13, so forth for literally everyone else we meet, except I guess for L, because his age is question mark. For humans specifically, though, there are a few other things to consider. The first is that while Earth is destroyed in 2054, the white whale spends 2 entire years in space before crashing on Mira, so the game actually takes place in 2056. The second is that every human we meet in the game is actually a Mimeosome, and not their flesh and blood body. And it is a known fact that everyone was put in stasis and their minds uploaded into the Mim prior to the white whale leaving Earth. So they spent those 2 years in a non-aging robot body. On top of that, side quest dialogue confirms that while most likely the majority of people in NLA just got their Mimeosome designed after either their regular body or an idealized version of that, that isn't a requirement. It is possible to get a Mim that doesn't just straight up look like you at the moment you got it. For instance, if you're elderly but want to be able to contribute physically to humanity's efforts in space and on Mira, you could get a Mimeosome that looked like a significantly younger version of yourself and would have the physical capabilities to match that. As far as we can tell, while Mimeosomes were designed to mimic being in your regular human body as close as possible to try and avoid any uncanny feelings, they're still robot bodies that probably wouldn't fundamentally change in any way other than just naturally breaking down from wear and tear, like I guess a regular human body aging would be too, unless they need to get rebuilt, meaning someone is not going to physically change in appearance whatsoever while they're in their Mim, and their original human body is in stasis in the life hold, so that won't change either. Now, obviously for safety concerns, Lynn is, as far as I can tell, the only child to actually be woken up and inducted into NLA just because her knowledge is so important. So this only really affects her since everyone else is an adult. But yeah, Lynn is going to stay looking exactly that way until she gets her regular body back, no matter how long it takes, even though she's, you know, a young teenager who would probably be changing pretty rapidly about that time in her life. So we have people whose physical bodies have been incapable of changing for 2 years, and that does include the physical makeup of their brain. So while you can obviously still learn things and develop habits, the fact that the structure of your neurons probably can't change all that much means there's probably a limited amount of maturing or changing in mindset that you can do in a Mimeosome as well. So as long as you're in a Mim, you are more or less in stasis. So that leads me to question, did people stop counting their age once they got put in their Mimeosomes? Let's use Arena as an example. The affinity chart lists her age as 27 years old during the game, so she claims to be 27 in the year 2056. To really simplify things, to make this a bit easier to comprehend, we'll say that Arena's birthday is January 1st, that Earth was specifically destroyed on July 1st, 2054, and that the white whale spent exactly 2 years in space, crashing on Mira on July 1st, 2056. Alright then, what year was Arena born in? There are 2 options that make sense. Was she born in 2029, turned 25 at the beginning of the year 2054, had a Mimeosome designed after her 25-year-old body, was placed in that and rode that on the white whale for 2 years all the way to Mira, and now considers herself to be 27 years old in 2056 because she has been conscious for that many years, even though she's been in an unchanging robot body designed after herself from 2 years ago by the time she crashed. Or alternatively, was she born in the year 2027, turned 27 years old at the beginning of 2054, got a Mimeosome designed after her 27-year-old body, got put in that when Earth was destroyed, and then stopped counting her age even though she's still conscious because she's in an unchanging robot body that can't really mature the same way a physical, real human body would. We genuinely just don't know. This argument holds for every single human character in the game. Their birthday could either just be 2056 minus their stated age, give or take 1 on either side to account for the difference in dates depending on when their birthday is and when the game takes place, or it could be that number minus 2 because people decided to stop counting their age once their physical body was put in stasis and their mind in a Mimeosome. There's also a third layer to this, actually. This is an additional complication branching off of the pathway of people did keep counting their age up after getting put in the Mim. So the rest of this is under the assumption that people did keep counting their age after their physical body was put on ice. And that's because there are actually 3 classes of human on the white whale. The first and most numerous class was people who were just in stasis and never had a Mimeosome made. They were just going to get woken up in their original body once the lifehold was discovered and New Los Angeles was stabilized on whatever planet it ended up on. The second class is the majority of blades we see as far as I can tell. And that is people who were put in stasis, had their mind put in a Mimeosome, and then remained awake to crew the ship during its long journey through space. And obviously the journey was a lot shorter than I think most people expected it to be because of the crash on Mira, but they spent 2 years in space regardless. The third class is one that definitely exists, but we don't really know how many people it had. And that is the case our avatar has. They're a Mimeosome, but the Mimeosome was in stasis somewhere other than the Lifehold core. So we don't know how many people were like that. Shosan's speech when you first get to NLA at least implies that there were some people, and it was general knowledge that some people were like that and not everyone was awake, but who really knows? So yeah, once the Lifehold is discovered, the people who are just always in stasis are going to pick back up right where they left off. They're just going to have stopped aging the day they were put in stasis and pick back up again whatever day the Lifehold was discovered and they got brought back out. The second group, they were just awake all the time. They'll just consider their ages to be whatever they normally would have been had nothing bad happened to the Earth or them at all. The only difference is they're going to get a life extension of 2 years plus however long it takes to find the Lifehold because of the time they spent in their Mimeosome. Then there's the third group, who are the people who were woken up as a Mimeosome at various arbitrary staggered dates after crashing on Mira. So they kind of combine the two, where they get a life extension, but the continuity of their age is different from everyone who was just in the Lifehold, which means everyone is just going to have to keep track of their own age separately from everyone else and from the actual date, unless they were always conscious the entire time, which is just kind of a mess. So, I don't know, I like thinking about weird transhumanist quandaries like that, even though I'm not super well versed in the science fiction that inspired Xenoblade X, and yeah, that's all I got. I just thought this was a neat detail that's kind of interesting to think about. Until next time, this is Luxon, signing off.